Okay. Hello guys. Um, Welcome to the YouTube. Uh, we're about building solutions on Avalanche. So, uh, for those who've been for those who've been with us in the last videos, you've been following through. We are checking on building agentic solutions on Avalanche, and that is what today we'll be diving deep into. So for tonight's session, I'm not going to be alone. We are going to do this with a good friend of mine, Sylus Abel. He's a good software engineer. I think he specializes in backend. So, and fun fact about him, he thinks Golang is still the best language ever to exist. And that is also true. I completely agree with him. So, yeah, for tonight's session, we're going to dive now deep, deep into the live programming, talk about that and yeah, and what it entails to actually be building agentic solutions on Avalanche, the technical part of of it. Today I'm also with an audience over here. Uh, Let me just give them shout outs. We have Austin Namoye, we have Basil Nzola, we have Collins Mutie, we have Daniel Mwekoti, we have Kennedy Getao, we have Junior Anthony, we have Jonas Terras, we have Kay, we have Lavender Esther, who's who's currently the lead, the team one lead. Yeah, yeah. I think it's Africa. Yes. Let me just give her flowers. She's been doing some great work for Avalanche, and she's a good friend of mine. Um, we have Okello Angelo, and we have Vincent Chalo, we have Vincent Oweno, and we have Virginia Wanjiro. They'll be following through what we're doing. And yeah, so for tonight, we'll be basically building our own terminal chatbot, CLI chatbot with memory, and we're going to dive into it. So don't worry about link to the code base will be attached below. And for my audience, it's going to be available in the chat. Yeah. So without further ado, I think I can get started. So let me start by giving you access to the code. So for you to get access to the code, just head over to your browser. Just head over to your browser and make sure you've joined uh, our GitHub organization talent index. These builders across Africa are contributing towards. So this is where you're going to find access to the code base. So once you're on Talent Index, click on repositories. Once you head over to repositories, sorry guys, let me not display a lot of information. Yeah, once you head over to repositories, you're going to look for this repo, which is the mini hack Cohort 3 week 1 starter. It is very public, anyone can contribute to it. So yeah, first step, you'll copy the URL, clone it to your device, and get started. So that's, let me just drop the link to it here in the chat. Says we can get started. There it is. So building your own terminal chatbot. This is where we are. So the first thing is setting up. Okay, for me, I'm going to take you through Anthropic for those who are very well conversant with Anthropic. But remember, you can replace Anthropic with your large language model that you prefer. and then we'll move forward. So step one will be setting up the Anthropic SDK. So for that, this is where you now get started. So one command that you need to run, if you head over to the repo, if you are on the repository already, there is some documentation on the command that you're going to run and how you're going to start your chatbot and all that. So the first thing is you need to run install so as you can install the dependencies. That is the uh, Anthropic AI slash SDK. Let me just come back here. So that's going to install the Anthropic SDK. So, and then the next step is copying the environment variables into your own private environment and variable. And then you're going to paste your API key from console.anthropic.com that you've generated. And then for demonstration purpose, I'm not going to display my key. Yeah, so that is step one. Step one is always installing and configuring your work environment. Then step two, now we are diving now deep into the code base. So for step two is now the main code that we're using. So for Anthropic, we use the Anthropic SDK. For those who want to use OpenAI, you can use OpenAI. So let me just walk you through this. So step number one, at the top, uh, we import the environment variable that is where you start. I remember when they said before that you needed to copy your environment variables and then you added your API key. So you need first to call out and import your environment variables from your .env file. And then after now doing that, you now load the Anthropic SDK on its own. For those using OpenAI, you now load OpenAI, but if you're using Anthropic, you're going to load Anthropic. Then after you've loaded Anthropic, uh, okay, as you can see here, if you're using Anthropic, just feel free to comment this out. If you're using OpenAI, uh, you can comment out the Anthropic part. So after now doing that, below now that is now what we call now the system prompt. This is our system prompt. Now that is from line 17 moving downward. So this system prompt, it contains the model name, the maximum token limit, the caps of how long any single reply can be, all that. So now step three now brings us now to the conversational loop. So the conversation loop, this is basically the heart of the whole program. So basically, we create like a Redline interface, and this is basically like the most important part. Like it is what we call an empty array called messages. So that array is now the entire memory of the conversation that you're going to have, and it will live only in memory while the program is running. So then after that, we now enter with a true loop. So once we enter with a true loop, what does it do? So it asks the user for input, and then it checks if they typed exit and break if so. Okay, so their message, so it breaks if so, and then the message is now pushed into that message array. Okay. Then after now doing that, we now call the Anthropic or the cloud messages dot, and then you create passing the model, and then you now input the maximum tokens. Yeah. Uh, I was just taking you through like a brief plain check on the code base. Let me pass this now to Silas. Silas, uh, tell us who you are, what you're building. Yeah, so as the audience can know you, and then maybe we can take.
Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. So my name is Silas. I'm a developer. I mostly do front end and Web3 development. So for front end, majorly focusing on iOS developments, but I've been doing some bit of web in the past few years. But yeah, that is basically what I do. What got me interested in Go, in fact, was the fact that Ethereum and also Avalanche uses Go in their systems, which I think is very good because for me Go is one of the simplest language. Uh, it is like C, but it doesn't give you the gun to blow your leg off the way C does. So it is as small as C, but very safe to use. So that is one of the reasons why I love Go. Anyway, I will to take you guys through the a live coding session, but I just have a really explained because the file is only, I believe, like 40 lines of code. So like there's no need to like do it over again because Joseph has already done part of it, and besides that, I think he has given you guys access to the code base. So uh, if you download the code base, if you manage to get your hands on an API key for OpenAI or maybe Anthropic, you can begin experimenting with this. And so for me, I think what I'll just do is I'll just run the project so that I can be able to show you how it should operate. So Joseph has shown you the code base. Basically, that is it, by the way. There is nothing else in this repo that you're going to download. This is the whole code base. Basically, it's just create an OpenAI client or a cloud client, and then you can interact with it in an infinite loop that will exit if you trigger an interrupt on your end. So you'll keep asking it question, and those messages, which we were calling context in the previous session that we had, will be used to send to the AI again. So if you have a new message or a new prompt, the older message are compacted together with your prompt and they're sent to the AI. AI analyzes it and then gives you a response based on that. And that is why you were saying context. Try. It is good if you try and minimize your context for the most part. It improves accuracy, yes, but in the long run, it's going to hurt you because, especially for the earlier models, hallucination was really uh, uh, like a pain in the ass if you are using like a lot of content. Like if you interacted with an AI for a bit of time, maybe like 2 days, 3 days. I remember the first GPT model, and then you try and ask it something even that it knows, something even that it knows. It wouldn't think. It will just thinking in quotes. It wouldn't do that. It will just like provide an output almost immediately, and it will be lying. And then when you question it, it says, "Oh, I see. You're right." And then it gives you another answer, which is also wrong again. So that was majorly an issue with context, at least to my understanding. But nowadays, like these models have gotten so great. You find like models have even 1 million token in context. So like that's a lot, but it's still wise to save your context so that you can interact with the model for longer and in an intelligent way. So basically, that is what these messages array is doing. So I will run npm start. It's always good to run npm install though before like working on any JavaScript project, just because JavaScript being JavaScript, it can decide to run you in loops and you don't understand what is happening. I'll run npm start, and then you can be able to, oh, yes, and that is JavaScript in a nutshell. I knew something was going to happen. So OpenAI is not important, and that's why I run npm install. Okay. Oh, I need to run npm install OpenAI. I think I had not installed OpenAI in this particular branch that I'm working on. But for you, uh, when you have cloned the repo, just run npm install and also npm install OpenAI, because I think the branch that I'm working on, I had not updated the package.json, so that is why that failed. But anyway, it will be good to go with this one. And then you can see that we are ready to send our first prompt, which is great because you're going to interact with the key model. I think it's 5.6. So I'm actually using Joseph's API key, so the bill is on him. So I think we can also share PDF here if he allows us. But then we can let us try and send a prompt and ask what is the consensus. Consensus. I hope I get the spelling right. Mechanism.
On Avalanche, yeah.
Yeah, on Avalanche. That is usually a good place to start. So we had not incorporated any loading state or like streaming response. So right now the model is generating the tokens, but we are not streaming it. So that is why you're not seeing any output right now. So it will just bomb you with the output, as you can see here. But you can integrate these things. You see how like GPT or what is it called, or Cloud Code generates or streams responses. That is something that you can do. And there are libraries for all languages that you can do that. Okay, so it has given us the consensus system on Avalanche. So it says proof of stake based on the Snow family protocol. So it gives you a bit of information there. And the way you're going to prove this one is like a link to the message, or like this particular chat is going to be sent to the model again with your new prompt. I think we can take this opportunity to ask the question, maybe something around uh, explains Norman consensus. Norman consensus. Spelling is a real problem to me. I don't know why. Consensus, like 5 years. So this is also another thing like that people like to do. So like explain to me like I'm a 5 year old, explain to me like I'm a high school graduate, explain to me like etc like I'm a professor or something. So it gives you an analogy of kid there. Since a lot of kids are building one long snowman, and it's actually coincidental that snowman is the perfect analogy to use here because kids love snowman. So it goes on and on to try and to explain to you as if you're 5 year old and give you the things that you can relate on, right? So that is basically it. And how you'd imagine this system to work is that now instead of just like generating content, because LLMs are generative models, they generate content by predicting based on like previously seen content. In the session following up to this, we're going to be discussing about tool calling, MCP servers, Avalanche MCP servers, and all these other things, so that your LLM or your model has use cases outside of just predicting text. I think if you in the session before, Joseph mentioned that you want these models have a cutoff date. So if a model was trained with data up to 2025, when okay, I don't want to say this, when a particular president does insider trading in 2024, it might not know that because the data that it has is up to 2025. So when you ask it about the history of that particular president, it will tell you this president is clean, etc. But now with tools, some of these which are actually baked into some of the models, such as these GPT, the cloud, the tools are baked into the models. They allow the LLM to access data outside its training data. So, for example, if you're building a wallet, let's say you're building an agentic wallet, which is actually something I have been thinking about. Instead of building like the normal Web3 wallets are usually like you have a button to send, you have a button to receive, you have like all of these many buttons. Yet, like the UI for ChatGPT and the UI for Cloud Code are just like text interactive or like sound interactive. So the thing you can imagine yourself building an agentic mobile wallet where the interface looks very similar to a Cloud Code or to a ChatGPT mobile app. So the user just logs in, enters their passcode or user ID to unlock the app, and then they just start chatting with the application like, can you send Joseph this amount of money? And then the human in the loop part comes in because the address, first of all, does not know who Joseph is, does not know his address. So it's going to say, can you give me the address of Joseph, the amount that you want me to send? And then you input. And then because you as the developer, you configure the app so that it cannot execute transaction on its own. The human in the loop part that Joseph mentioned comes in place. So it prepares the transaction. The agent has tools to prepare the transaction. Again, another thing that we're talking about is tool calling. So, and tools basically just functions that do something. So you can imagine how you write a JavaScript function, like this main function here. This is the simplest form of a tool because when running or when in execution, the agent can be able to call a particular function. It knows what this function takes in as parameters and what it returns as the result. So it can, and it knows what it does inside the function body. So if it needs to build a transaction, for example, if you want to build a transaction first, you need the network, you need the network ID, you need the user's public key, you need the amount, you need the token address that you're sending. So it can be able to use other mini tools to fetch this, then build a transaction. Because either way, building a transaction is just uh, is a constant process. So the way I'd build a transaction for sending $100 is the same way I'd build the one for sending $5. The only thing that changes is the parameters. So it builds that transaction, and then the human loop in the part comes where you, after the agent has built the transaction, you display a button, confirm, make the payment to this and this person, and then you hit confirm. And then afterwards, maybe it can ask you, can I save this as Joseph address? So the next time you're telling me to send money to Joseph, I don't have to like get to ask you again for the address. So you can do things like that. So like the whole wallet experience is moved from users navigating between screens and just communicating. And it can be even better if you add things like um, the sound, like a voice command, because the same way an LLM understands text input is the same way that it understands voices. But research has shown that talking is very much faster. Okay, I don't think we needed research for that, but like talking is very much fast and easy to communicate compared to like typing. So yeah, because and I think you can think of it logically because when you're typing, you're actually sounding the voice in your brain so that your hand can be able to coordinate. I don't think you can type without like talking because you need the words to make sense. Either way, I think that is all. If you guys have an API key, you can definitely interact with this code base and ask it some things. But just be aware, the more you continue with the chat, the more your messages array will get filled up, and the more tokens is going to consume. So as the context expands, so does the token consumption. So you can be able to check this out. I think Joseph has explained everything here, so I don't need to uh, go over it again. But just know like, this is just the foundation place that we're going to start with. The thing that we're going to be building at the end, or the thing that we're going to be submitting for the hackathon, they're going to be way more complex, way more cooler, and interact Avalanche at a deeper level compared to this. So thank you for your time. I think that is it for me.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, from what you've seen from the demonstration, how we have allocated the tokens, token capacity, memory, saving, and all that. And the perfect example that Silas has actually mentioned concerning sending funds, and then the next time you like tell it when you send X amount of AVAX to Joseph, since the wallet address is already saved in the memory, it's going to get that wallet address and then Now for the human loop, it's going to ask you, is this still the correct address? And then you can confirm. So yeah, I see some of you have already tested this out. If okay, I see here in the chat, Okelo, you're saying you're using a Linux environment. When you start, you're getting this error. Um, cannot read properties or undefined of the create. Okay, that's actually really, really easy. Okay, I think it's the fact that I think Silas has not pushed the correct the updated repo. Which LLM are you using? Uh, which LLM are you using? Are you using Anthropic or are you using OpenAI? Anthropic. Have you have you commented out the OpenAI? Okay. Yeah. So that is basically how a simple CLI implementation you can do, for a chat. So such integration you can do to your front end. Yeah, and I think in the next session, we will be doing how to connect it to your front end, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the same concerning now uh, the loops. Yeah, so looking forward to seeing you guys there. So uh, for this week, um, quests, they're going to be added below in the description and also posted in the community chat. So feel free to check it out. And if you've not subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you did not miss any of these. If you run and it finally succeeds, make sure that you take a screenshot, post it on X, and tag us at Team One Africa. And yeah, that will be something very, very nice. So yeah, you don't need to pay for the API. Sorry guys, yeah. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to interacting with you in the next one. Ciao. Goodbye. Bye.